more we can expect later on today. Haley.
Good morning. Yeah, Maduro is being arraigned on charges tied to narco-terrorism, drugs, and weapons. Now, he is accused, and his wife and 4 others are accused of running a criminal enterprise focused on moving cocaine into the U.S. So right now, this is a 4-count indictment, and those charges specifically include narco-terrorism conspiracy, cocaine importation conspiracy, possession of machine guns and destructive devices, and conspiracy to possess machine guns and destructive devices. Now, Maduro and his wife, they have been in New York since Saturday, and that's when federal officials transported them after their capture during Operation Absolute Reserve. White House officials, they say this was a complex mission that involved months of planning and tracking the Venezuelan president. Now, in this video obtained by Fox News, you can see Maduro in custody after he was processed at the DEA headquarters. Now, across the world and here in the U.S., many Venezuelans, they're celebrating Maduro's capture, and now they have hope for the future in the homeland. However, yesterday, there were some protests here at MDC where some people called for authorities to release him because of how Maduro was removed from power. Let's take a listen to what President Trump said on Air Force One last night and what a criminal defense attorney anticipates we'll see in court today.
They're going through a slog of a trial. The judge is very respected. Judge Ellerstein is a highly respected judge. We'll see how we do. The case is infallible. The people are so happy with what we've done.
We could expect there to be a bail detention hearing, which the government will almost surely be seeking remand, and they will almost surely get remand on the fact that he's not a U.S. citizen, doesn't have any abode here in the United States. He obviously was brought here under much fanfare after this invasion that occurred over the weekend. So I expect the judge to remand him to the MDC unless the Bureau of Prisons says for some reason that they would be unable to keep him at the MDC pending the trial in this case.
Now, Maduro is set to face a judge at noon today. Live in Sunset Park, Brooklyn, back to you.
Haley, so over the weekend, we saw a lot of protesters, as you mentioned, just outside of that Brooklyn detention center. What is the scene looking like at this moment? It seems to be a little more calm, a bit more tame.
It's a lot more calm. You know what? Anyone who's here is media, and then we have seen some military members and, of course, police officers, but no protesters are here this morning.
Haley Fixler with our team at Good Day New York. We appreciate your time, and we'll check in soon. All right, moving on here, though, to several of those live images. Again, Maduro is expected to appear in that federal courtroom in downtown Manhattan here. So you can see that we have some security officials, some law enforcement officials just outside of those doors. And also, we still continue to have that aerial image from helicopters that are keeping track of all of those vehicles there in the scene. So a lot of traffic may be expected later on today, specifically when it comes to downtown Manhattan. Now, again, as the criminal defendant in a U.S. legal system, Maduro will have the same rights as any other person accused of a crime, including the right to a trial by a jury of regular New Yorkers. Maduro's lawyers, they are expected to contest the legality of his arrest, arguing that he is immune from prosecution as a sovereign head of state. Panamanian strongman Manuel Noriega was unsuccessfully tried. Well, he unsuccessfully tried the same defense after the U.S. captured him in a similar military invasion back in 1990. That's something we touched on with our expert Ken Gray just a few minutes ago. So we have seen similar cases in the past. It remains to be seen how this is going to play out today, but in a similar fashion there, the U.S. does not recognize Maduro as Venezuela's legitimate head of state, particularly after that much disputed 2024 election. Venezuela's new interim president, Delcy Rodriguez, has demanded that the U.S. return Maduro, who long denied any involvement in drug trafficking. Although late on Sunday, she also struck a more conciliatory tone in a social media post, inviting collaboration with President Trump and, quote, respectful relations with the U.S. That's according to some of the reporting that we have with the Associated Press. I would just want to bring us back out to the images that we have outside of that Manhattan courthouse. I'm going to lift up the audio just briefly here so we can listen in.
Yeah. should have worn better shoes.
So as you can see, not much going on there. I was thinking that perhaps there could be some chanting and stuff over the weekend, as I had spoke about with Haley. There were some protesters there outside of the Brooklyn Detention Center protesting Nicolas Maduro, his regime, but also several people across the country and across the world are also protesting the way that all of this went down. Taking us back out to another image that we have here, trying to see, I do believe that could be Nicolas Maduro that you see being led back there, but we're not entirely sure. This camera is really far, so we're just going to keep this live image up here on your screen. But there you can see that military members, law enforcement agents are directing what looks to be ousted Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro. Yes, he is on his way there to the New York City courtroom, and that does appear to be him. He is going to be lifted into that helicopter that is there stationed at the prison, where he will be appearing before a judge at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That is noon today. Cameras are not allowed inside the courtroom, but as you just saw, reporters are there standing by to let us know what happened inside. Now, before his capture, Maduro and his allies claimed U.S. hostility was motivated by lust for Venezuela's rich oil and mineral resources. This I'm also attributing to reporting courtesy of the Associated Press. The U.S. seized Maduro and his wife in a military operation on Saturday, capturing them in their home on a military base. President Trump said the U.S. would, quote, run Venezuela temporarily, but Secretary of State Marco Rubio said on Sunday that it would not govern the country day to day other than enforcing an existing oil quarantine. I'm going to keep this live image here on your screen because we don't want to miss a moment, at least until the helicopter takes off here, with what appeared to be Nicolas Maduro stepping inside, escorted by several agents there just outside of the Brooklyn Detention Center. President Trump, meantime, speaking aboard Air Force One just yesterday, called on Colombia's president, Gustavo Petro, to stop making cocaine and selling it to the United States. Relevant here because the president not just focused on Venezuela at this moment, but also focused on several other Latin American countries there that he says are posing harm to the United States. He called on Venezuela also to provide total access to the country or else face consequences. Now, the 25-page indictment that Maduro is facing was made public on Saturday, and it accuses the ousted Venezuelan leader and others of working with drug cartels to facilitate the shipment of thousands of tons of cocaine into the U.S. They could face life in prison if convicted. It was not clear as of Sunday whether Maduro had hired a U.S. lawyer just yet. He and his wife, Cilia Flores, have been under U.S. sanctions for years now, making it illegal for any American to take money from them without first securing a license from the Treasury Department. While the indictment against Maduro says Venezuelan officials worked directly with the Tren de Aragua gang, a U.S. intelligence assessment published in April, drawing on input from the intelligence community's 18 agencies, found no coordination between Tren de Aragua and the Venezuelan government. Maduro, his wife, and his son, who does remain free, are charged, along with Venezuela's Interior and Justice Minister, a former Interior and Justice Minister, and Hector Guerrero Flores, who is an alleged Tren de Aragua leader who has been criminally charged in other cases and remains at large. Among other things, the indictment also accuses Maduro and his wife of ordering kidnappings, beatings, and murders of those who owed them drug money or undermined their drug trafficking operation. That included a long drug boss's killing in Caracas, according to that indictment, which is about 25 pages in length. Maduro's wife, also accused of accepting hundreds of thousands of dollars in bribes in 2007 to arrange a meeting between a large-scale drug trafficker and the director of Venezuela's National Anti-Drug Office, resulting in additional monthly bribes, with some of the money going to Maduro's wife. Again, citing the indictment there. So if you are just joining us here at Live Now from Fox 725 here on the East Coast, 425 in the morning on the West Coast, this is a live image that we have just outside of the Brooklyn Detention Center, where we just saw Nicolas Maduro be escorted inside of this helicopter. He is going to be on his way to a federal courtroom in downtown Manhattan, New York City, where he will be facing a judge today for that first initial hearing. Just yesterday, as I mentioned, President Trump did speak to reporters aboard Air Force One. And we do have those full remarks on our YouTube page if you do want to take a look at them at the moment. So just search up Live Now Fox on YouTube. We're seeing here the helicopter takeoff. Let's just hang on this for a bit.
We're good. All right, thank you. And whenever they transported him on the ground, the courthouse.
So we're just watching here as this helicopter there taking Nicolas Maduro to that courthouse in downtown Manhattan. We did have some chopper audio there over the feed. We're not entirely sure if we can take that just yet. So we're just going to hang tight on this. And we're going to work to see what kind of access we have to some of the audio from this feed in particular. But a lot of things happening right now, just kind of stemming from that big breaking news from over the weekend. And of course, New York on a high alert at this time because of this high profile case that we are seeing here. I just want to go ahead and give some more details of this entire situation. In case you're just joining us, we have just hit the bottom of the hour. 7:30 a.m. Eastern time, 4:30 a.m. in the morning Pacific time. And this was a short helicopter ride, as you can see, from the Brooklyn Detention Center to wherever this helipad is located, carrying ousted Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro. So I'm going to refer back to some of this reporting courtesy of the Associated Press. They say this, that deposed Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro is set to make his first appearance Monday, so today, in an American courtroom on the narco terrorism charges the Trump administration used to justify capturing him and bringing him to New York. Maduro and his wife, Celia Flores, are expected to appear at noon before the judge for a brief but required legal proceeding that will likely kick off a prolonged legal fight. over whether he can be put on trial in the U.S. The couple here is going to be brought from that Brooklyn jail to the Manhattan courthouse just around the corner. And you saw it was a very short helicopter ride indeed. So we're staying on this at least until we see who gets off of this particular helicopter at this time. You're watching this live as well as the rest of the world. You're watching this all unfold with us in real time. So we're seeing here some law enforcement agents have stepped out. And so more people are getting off of this helicopter at this moment as well. So we're going to wait to see. I do believe that that is Nicolas Maduro that is getting out of the helicopter at this time as well. So you can see him there in a standard jumpsuit, which is what many people would wear if they're being detained in a prison, especially the one there in Brooklyn in particular. We're not entirely sure who is accompanying him in terms of the law enforcement agents that have been tasked with this entire job, or if perhaps one of these agents is directing him at the moment in Spanish. Now, as a criminal defendant in the U.S. legal system, Maduro will have the same rights as any other person accused of a crime, including the right to a trial by a jury of regular New Yorkers. Maduro's lawyers, they are expected to contest the legality of his arrest, arguing that he is immune from prosecution as a foreign head of state. But as you know, the U.S. does not recognize Maduro as the legitimate head of state. We heard that during a press conference given over the weekend, in which President Trump detailed that entire U.S. military operation in Caracas on Saturday. He was also joined by Secretary Pete Hegseth, Secretary Marco Rubio, and General Dan Kane. He also took questions from reporters. And we are seeing here what appears to be Maduro being lifted into this heavily armored vehicle on his way to that courthouse. His court appearance is going to be at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That is noon local time on the East Coast there, local time down there in New York. No cameras are allowed inside of the courthouse. But our team at Fox 5 in New York, they do have reporters on the ground. And in fact, we do have another vantage point. This one is a little bit delayed. So this is a ground shot of what we just saw happen from overhead in that live look that we have from the chopper. So several of these images coming into our vantage point right now, coming into our newsroom ahead of that highly anticipated court appearance for the ousted Venezuelan leader. So again, this image that we're just getting fed in here seems to be on a little bit of a delay. So we just saw Maduro being led into that heavily armored vehicle. We see DEA agents there. We also see other military members. That's what appears to be. They are armed, they are ready, they're making sure that everything stays secure and everything goes off without a hitch. Over the weekend, we also heard from the newly sworn in New York City Mayor Zoran Mamdani, who had said that his priority always will be New Yorkers there in the area. Obviously, he was made aware that Maduro would be there in the vicinity, resulting in additional monthly bribes, with some of the money going to Maduro's wife, according to the indictment. So we saw here that caravan and vehicles entering officially to a part where we're not going to have cameras allowed in there. Let's keep this shot here for just a moment, though. We don't want to move away.